We've got a stack of notes today, the learner, that completely flips the script on what success even looks like.
It really does.
Forget the whole hustle culture thing, the endless grind. We're diving into some really counterintuitive wisdom on, not just finding your dream, but actually acting on it.
And it's a fascinating body of work. Our sources suggest the biggest barrier isn't a lack of opportunity or intelligence. No, it's an internal paralysis.
Yeah.
It's rooted in these deep-seated myths about what achievement is. So many people have a dream, but they're just stuck.
And our mission today is to unpack the three sort of essential forces this philosophy demands: dream, purpose, and persistence.
Right.
And we're going to trace how these forces all connect back to this really revolutionary idea of #GiveWithoutTake.
And to set the tone for that whole non-transactional idea, we start with, well, the most incredible anchor point. A literal staircase that led absolutely nowhere.
A staircase to nowhere. Tell us about this bizarre purchase.
Okay, so picture this. A 4-story, gray, window-filled building in Twickenham. But calling it a building is being generous. It was essentially just a concrete frame. A staircase that was left behind after the block it was attached to was torn down.
So just a staircase.
Just a staircase. The auctioneer, even called it an unusual little lot.
Yeah?
It sold for $34,000.
$34,000 for what is basically a glorified fire escape. So what's the non-transactional part? Why does that even matter?
But what's the personal meaning? The buyer, he'd left home at 15 after his father's sudden death.
Wow.
And at one point, needing shelter, he actually slept in a cold, concrete fire exit staircase just like it. So for him, it wasn't an investment in property. It was an investment in a memory and a belief.
That reframes everything. And he didn't just keep it as some weird monument. They turned it into what the source calls the world's most unlikely dream factory.
Exactly. They installed a doorbell and a video camera, and the invitation was for anyone, from anywhere, to come and pitch their dream. No vetting, no cost.
Just show up and talk.
That's #GiveWithoutTake in, like its purest architectural form.
And people actually responded. I love the detail about the person who drove 6 hours from Scotland just to ring that doorbell. It just shows that sometimes all a dream needs is an invitation to exist.
It does. And that sets us up for the first challenge.
Yeah.
You have to dismantle the 2 big myths about success that paralyze everybody.
Okay, let's unpack those. Because they sound so reasonable, which is what makes them so dangerous. First one, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
This is the sensible myth, right?
Right.
It sounds like good old-fashioned grit. But the source argues it's toxic because it actually rewards, staying put.
How so?
If you believe pure effort is the key, you tell yourself to be sensible and realistic. You end up avoiding the big ideas if they involve risk.
So it's not about being lazy, it's about misguided effort. The person working 60 hours a week on a mediocre idea gets praised, but the one taking a huge risk is seen as reckless.
Precisely. Success isn't just long days. It's about learning from failure. Failure is just data acquisition. You analyze why you failed, and you hone your instincts for the next try.
Okay, so if myth number 1 is about effort, myth number 2 is very visible, very seductive. Possessions define success. The source calls it the Porsche test.
Right. The founder of this whole philosophy, he spent years chasing that traditional definition of success. And it all culminated in him buying an expensive Porsche. The sign that he'd finally made it.
But I'm guessing the euphoria didn't last long.
It lasted about a week. The high of driving it out of the showroom was gone, and by the second week, it was just a liability. Got scratched, maintenance was a hassle. It became a burden.
But wait, I have to push back a little here. For most people, the learner owning a house, a car, that is stability. Isn't this just a rich person's problem?
That's a fair challenge, but the source makes a key distinction. It's not about the monthly payment. It's about the opportunity cost. It's mortgage versus freedom.
Okay.
If all your time and energy goes into servicing that big fixed debt, your options are limited. You're tied to one place, one job, even if you hate it.
So the stability you think you're buying is actually a kind of prison.
It can be. The source points out that renting gives you flexibility. If the founder had owned a home back then, he never would have had the freedom to just, move to Hong Kong and sleep on a friend's sofa to launch his career.
And every time he got rid of a possession, like selling the Porsche, he felt freer. The question he keeps asking is, are you running your life or is it running you?
Exactly. And chasing possessions gets in the way of finding your real dream. And a real dream, it has to be rooted in purpose. Often that comes from personal experience, from pain.
We see that so clearly with Kelly's canines. Kelly, a dog groomer, her drive came from a place of real vulnerability.
Absolutely. Her father died, her mother abandoned her, and she was homeless as a teenager. That pain, that feeling of being abandoned, that became the fuel for her purpose.
So her purpose wasn't just about making money from grooming dogs.
No, not at all. It was about nurturing animals, helping those who can't speak up for themselves. That's a completely non-transactional motivation. When she couldn't find a physical space, she didn't quit. She launched a mobile salon. The mission dictated the solution.
Another powerful one is Sophie, the founder of I Am Denim. After life-saving surgery after childbirth, she couldn't find any comfortable jeans.
So her business, Tummy-Friendly Jeans, came from this powerful purpose. No one else should have to go through this alone. She was fighting back against her own trauma. Purpose is the anchor that holds you steady.
And if you doubt the power of that kind of belief, you just have to look at the Sylvester Stallone story with the Rocky script.
Stallone wrote that script after watching Muhammad Ali fight Chuck Wepner. He was so break he'd sold his dog.
And producers offered him $25,000 for the script.
Then they went up to $250,000. Life-changing money.
$250,000 in the 70s, most people would have snatched that check and run.
But he refused to sell it unless he could star as Rocky Balboa.
With basically zero acting experience.
That's belief. He knew his idea, his purpose, was worth more than any amount of money. And it paid off. It shows your belief is the most precious asset you have.
And that purpose has to anchor existing businesses too. The founder's ad agency, Fluid, had really high staff turnover.
Because the employees felt the business had no purpose. It was just about helping other people make money.
So they pivoted the entire company's mission.
They did. The new mission was to celebrate creativity, pay people properly, and give them time to do quality work. And focusing on the well-being of the staff, not just the bottom line, it immediately solved the turnover problem.
Okay, so we've found the dream, we've anchored it in purpose, now we hit the walls, the self-made prisons that block us.
Barrier one is what the source calls survival mode. This is the person who says, I don't have time, I've got bills, I'm rushing for the bus.
But bills are real. A job is real. Isn't that just a practical reality for almost everyone?
It is, but it also becomes an excuse. Survival mode is living just to get through the day or the week, with no mental space to think beyond that. You have to carve out non-negotiable time for the dream, even just 5 minutes a day, to break that loop.
Okay. And barrier two, financial prisons. The mortgaged house, the finance car, being stuck in a job you hate to pay for it all.
And this one is generational. People say, I'm doing this for my kids, for their stability. But kids do what you do, not what you say. Denying your own dreams sets this awful example that the only way to be an adult is to sacrifice yourself. The real cost isn't the interest rate. It's the hypocrisy that traps the next generation.
That's a heavy thought. And barrier three is fear and overthinking. You know your dream, but you're just terrified.
Right. You stall. You worry you don't have the right credentials, the right experience. You wait for permission that never comes. The source talks about Charlie the artist, whose partner kept telling him to get a proper job until he finally landed a publishing contract.
The message is that dreams don't stay fresh. They're like ripe fruit. You have to pick them or they go rotten.
Which brings us to the importance of just taking the leap. Look at Ches Sam in Hong Kong. The founder meets Sam on the street, and she vaguely mentions her dream of a catering business.
And he seizes the moment. He offers her a non-transactional launch pad. They were hosting an event and invited her to cater it, to pitch her food directly to potential customers.
And Sam was, non-committal. She was afraid. People watching the video online were saying things like, bro is not coming. The fear was real.
But the opportunity was real too. And 72 hours later,
she showed up. She catered her first event, launched her business right there. And that video went viral, hit 17 million views.
And the founder gave her all the video revenue as seed funding.
It's a perfect example of #GiveWithoutTake. A non-transactional leap turned a vague idea into a reality, all fueled by community belief.
That leads us perfectly into the strategy of persistence. Because once you leap, you need stamina.
And it's smart persistence, not just hard work for its own sake. Persistence is what lets you get lucky because you generate more opportunities. The founder was pursuing 50 big brand clients for his new agency, Fluid.
And they didn't just email once.
No, they contacted them repeatedly, but with relevant info, articles, useful things. They provided value without demanding anything in return.
And over 9 years,
They worked with every single company on that list.
Yeah.
Persistence just gave them more chances to show up and provide worth.
Adversity is often the best teacher for persistence. Look at NVIDIA, now a trillion-dollar company. At one point, they were 30 days from going bankrupt.
And the founder, Jensen Huang, he made our companies 30 days from going out of business.
Yeah.
A constant rallying cry. He believes suffering builds character. That shared pain forced an urgency that became their culture.
It's the same story with Steve Jobs returning to a struggling Apple. Real persistence means you have to evolve, to pivot.
Exactly. Look at famous brands. They persisted by evolving. Bubble wrap started as 3D wallpaper,
No way.
then greenhouse insulation, before it became packaging. Instagram started as a complicated app called Bourbon. Netflix started by mailing DVDs. They persisted by pivoting to what customers actually wanted.
But all of this, it requires a commercial anchor. You have to build a business model, even if your goal is to help people for free.
Right, the Helpline platform, it offers advice for free. That's the hashtag give without take ethos.
Okay.
But to pay the team and expand, it runs as a business anchored by sponsorship. You can't achieve the dream if it's not financially sustainable.
Which brings us to the ultimate freedom, and maybe the hardest part, knowing when to leave your own successful creation.
You can't build a company part-time, but the source says don't quit all at once. You have to taper off.
Through the 3 T's.
Train people, trust people, and tear yourself away. When the founder hired a pro to replace him as CEO, he realized any single one of them would do a better job than I could.
That requires leaving your ego at the door. If the business is truly successful, it doesn't need you there every single day.
And after you sell, after you have that liquidity, don't just retire. Invest in yourself. Go back to your purpose and ask, what is the biggest and best version of this now?
For the founder, it was always about helping people with business, first for fees, then for equity. So after selling, he had the means to create HelpLink and do it for free. The fundamentals, dream, purpose, persistence, they just find a new, bigger stage.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? The fundamental forces don't change. Find your purpose, root your dream in it, and then practice smart persistence.
And maybe most importantly, you have to actively fight against the transactional nature of the world. Intentionally look for ways to just give.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought, the hashtag Take4 challenge. It's a really simple, actionable way to reconnect with people, especially strangers, in a focused 4-minute interaction.
And the goal is giving, not taking. So 1 minute to find out who they are, 1 minute to find out what they need, and then 1 minute to give them some actual help, connection, advice, an idea.
And in that final minute, you pass it on. You ask them to find someone else and do the same. This small, non-transactional act, it changes both you and the person you help. It creates a chain reaction.
That's our deep dive for today. Now, who are you going to ask? What's your dream?